Our next question is, what's the difference between an array and a list? I get this question all the time when I'm teaching introductory Python. Okay, let me start off by saying the uses of arrays and the uses of lists are very, very similar, at least in Python. That is to say, if you're used to using arrays in another language and you start with Python, you're probably going to think that lists are basically arrays, but they're not. So what are the differences? So an array and list both contain many items, right? So arrays and lists both are both containers, and we'll even say one-dimensional containers. But array length is known and set at creation time, and arrays contain only one type of data. Those are the two big differences between arrays and lists. Now there's some subtle things besides those, but that's the basic idea. So first of all, if I say my list equals 10, 20, 30, and the len of my list is now going to be 3, can I change that? Yeah, I can say my list append 40, and now the len of my list is of course 4. I can even say my list plus equal 50, 60, 70, and now the len of my list is going to be 7. So we see that the list can change, and it's not that lists are immutable and we're assigning back a new list. That would be true with strings. But in this case, we are actually changing the list itself. The object itself is changing, and the variable pointing to it, the variable referring to it, is not changing at all. It continues to refer to exactly the same variable. We can see that if I say x equals 10, 20, 30, then y equals x. And now x append 40, and x append 50. And now y has 40 and 50 also. Why? Because both x and y are referring to the same data, and we're not executing any assignment here, we're just modifying that data. And this is of course only possible because lists are immutable data structures. So we see that lists and arrays are already different because lists can change their size. But there's another issue, which is arrays contain only one type of data, and lists contain potentially many types of data. Is that true? It is true. Say my list equals 10 ABC len int stir 5 and I don't know AAA, right? So I can look at my list, and now we've got all these different things. I've got a function, I've got a class, I've got some other stuff going on there, multiple classes, multiple strings. Is this legal Python? Absolutely it is. But this is not Pythonic. This is not considered to be standard behavior in Python. Why? Because even though it's technically possible, lists are traditionally used to store one type of data. A list of strings, a list of ints, a list of functions, whatever it's going to be. Not using lots of different types inside of them. So even though technically speaking, arrays must contain the same type always, and lists can contain any types we want, we traditionally in the Python world try to keep lists holding only one type of data. Now, I should add, behind the scenes, lists are actually implemented as arrays, but they're not arrays in the Python world. They're not arrays that we can see for ourselves and use. Rather, it's the C implementation of Python that is implementing the lists that uses arrays, and they are arrays of pointers to Python objects. And that's why you can have any type of object in a list, because it's referring to a generic Python object, and then inside the object it says more specifically what it contains. One last thing, there is actually an array module in Python. So you can say import array, and then you can create arrays based on that. Quite frankly, I can't remember the last time I actually used this. I know that some people do. This is if you want an actual array of items of the same type, and they're really simple types. If you want more complex arrays, really robust arrays that do all sorts of really cool stuff, you probably want to look into NumPy. And NumPy arrays are totally different from the arrays that come with the Python standard library, which are themselves totally different from built-in Python lists. But if you have to go with an array, I'd say NumPy arrays are probably the way to go, unless you have a specific use case. That said, day-to-day in Python, you're typically going to be using lots of lists. Python itself internally uses lots of lists, and they are sort of the go-to container whenever you need a bunch of different things, especially of the same type, and especially if they might change over time.